going to talk about the elements of the cloud with regard to video collaboration. So the gentleman from Mitel, I think, talked about those hard bits that go inside the cloud to form the cloud. A colleague of mine who used to fly gliders used to talk about cumulus granitus as the things to avoid when sort of gliding out there. I'm going to talk about some of the cumulus granitus stuff, so the elements of technology that go into making a cloud which is fit for collaboration. Some interesting statistics there about the impact of the collaboration index on business performance. This is a survey of about 950 companies done by Microsoft, Frost & Sullivan, Verizon, and you can see right across a swathe of business performance areas that the collaborative index, as measured by that survey, has a huge effect on business performance. Collaboration index wasn't just the technology that you can deploy inside an organization to make it easy for people to contact each other and to share content and to communicate. It was all about the culture in the organization. So how open was the culture in the organization? Were people at every level of the organization accessible? Were decisions being able to be made quickly by those guys by reaching out and grabbing them and having access to their time? Was the technology in place to allow that to happen as well? So not just technology, but a culture and a process around collaboration is important. What I will talk about is the technology. But there are many other considerations to be had in trying to turn your organization into a highly collaborative one. And if you do, it can be very successful in these areas. One particular item there on the slide was the histogram pillar for customer satisfaction. And you can see there that the other elements of the mix, the turbulence in the marketplace, the strategic orientation of the organization, and that, according to the survey, was a measure of how aggressive the organization was in chasing new opportunities in the marketplace. You can see that market turbulence and strategic orientation had no measurable impact on customer satisfaction. Right? It was the collaboration index, the culture within the organization that would allow, let's say, sir, if you were to dial in to an organization with some sort of issue to complain about, and I take your call, I would like to take ownership of your issue. I would like to reach out into the organization and grab the experts that are available, knowing that they are available through various tools that are on the network, grab their expertise, talk about your problem, and get back to you as quickly as I possibly can with a well-grounded plan for how I deal with your issue. Okay, but you are now dealing with me and me alone, and I'm owning your problem. And that's one of the mechanisms, I think, that these organizations were able to display in dealing with customer issues. That collaborative index plus the tools that allow people to collaborate quickly across distance are the elements that go together to make that that standout statistic. Okay. You've heard about this already as well from gentlemen from Avaya, but it's also worth considering your journey along the UC collaboration maturity curve. Many organizations still are down at the bottom of that curve, where individual contributions are highly recognized and are rewarded. And there's certainly there's an internal focus even around the collaboration that does go on. But the reward mechanisms are such that it's individual contributions that are recognized and rewarded most clearly. As you move up the maturity model, the requirement then is to get to an area where knowledge sharing is actually rewarded. And quite some time ago, I worked for a major multinational, Motorola, involved in manufacturing up in Hertfordshire. And they had a reward mechanism even in those early days of allowing me to innovate inside my business, but then encouraging me to write a paper on that innovation, and then encouraging me to go out and broadcast that innovation via that paper and presentations around the organization to allow people to adopt my innovation. And they rewarded me then by saying if other people do adopt and save some money in their part of the organization, then some of that saving will come back to you in your pay packet. There was quite a significant encouragement of people to share. They used to fly selected presenters out to places like Hawaii, and they would have these forums whereby you present your innovation. So we ended up with papers coming out of our ears. Really, there was innovations coming from all over the place, and it became sort of difficult to filter through all of these. But it was highly innovative and highly collaborative as a culture. As a result, one great example was a group of about sort of 10 PAs in the UK, who, again, like 10, 12 years ago, started to consolidate travel buying around their part of the company, and saved something like £400,000 through this consolidation. And then they presented the process by which they got together internationally. Other parts of the US started to adopt that. Major savings to be had around the company. And I remember these PAs whizzing past me in their sports cars on the A1M as they were awarded for the innovation. So I'm just sad I wasn't part of that team. And then, as the gentleman from Hawaii pointed out as well, the requirement then to move from that point of the maturity model to the next stage is to actually break out of the internal only collaboration, so the psyche that most people have. I'm guessing that most people in the room here, when they do collaborate, it's collaboration with colleagues. And certainly when it's technology-enabled collaboration, it's almost exclusively collaboration with colleagues. And that's the next stage in the game, is to break out of that and to start inviting your power users. So the client to really challenge your organization for innovation. The people who come to you and go, your stuff is great, but it'd be great if it did this, it'd be even better. Those people you want to actually invite into your collaboration process on a very regular, very frequent basis. And the requirement of the technology now is that we break out of the internal confines that we have established as vendors and as users around collaboration, and start getting the supply chain and the customer base involved in there as well. And when you get to that, then you can get really significant benefits. A good example was there's a pharmaceutical company which was looking at closing down or limiting the extent of their research facilities in Kent, because they found that the innovation that was going on within their supply chain, the small sort of biotech companies that were out there innovating, saw a huge attraction in using that pharmaceutical company as effectively the sales and marketing arm for their innovation. So the technology requirement of that pharma company now is to be able to reach out into those smaller innovators out there. So much reduced cost of innovation, and they've actually found a greater success rate of innovation as well as it moves through the process to product. So in terms of what goes then into making a cloud which is good for collaboration, all the elements of a video collaboration solution are on the board there. At the top level is what you call the endpoint technology. Okay, so that's the stuff that you will probably sit in front of. It will have the camera and the microphone and all that good stuff to capture your utterances and your looks and transmit it over the network. Now, that's stuff that ain't ever going to appear in the cloud. The camera in the cloud is a sort of an interesting concept, but I'm not sure of the implementation detail, if you like. So there's elements of a collaboration solution which won't form part of the cloud, and it certainly won't most likely form part of the ideal cloud usage model, where it's always there, always on, and you only pay per use. Okay? This is an element of the technology which is you're likely to rent and have it in your enterprise, or own and have it in your enterprise. Okay? The endpoint technologies do range from the highly mobile stuff. We were at the awards ceremony last night for an innovative application we have called Real Presence Mobile, which is a standards-based video conferencing application running off multiple phones and tablets and the like. So it moves from those relatively simple devices up through PC-based home office implementation, software stuff again, which will turn your PC in your home office into a little video conferencing studio. It gets a bit more sophisticated then as you move into the office space normally, and you have executive desktop systems with more specialist cameras and microphones and stereo audio capabilities. Very often good for sort of what you might call little huddle conferences where there are 2 or 3 people sat in front of a 20-inch screen with integrated cameras and microphones and loudspeakers and the like. Okay, will be your PC screen and all that fancy stuff. So it moves from there then into the group systems where you have many cameras and many microphones and many screens. And basically, as you move through this portfolio, is from sort of left to right there on the screen. The systems get better and better at handling larger and larger spaces, if you like, and by implication, larger and larger groups of people. Okay, so that's the sort of the flow through the portfolio. And then when you get to the top end of the portfolio, you have this immersive stuff. Okay, where you give the vendor complete responsibility for delivering your collaboration experience. So the furniture in the room is specified by the vendor. The lighting in the room is specified by the vendor. And that means that we can specify it to be identical at both ends of the conference. And it means that with clever enough design, when you're sitting in one of these conferences, after a little time, you actually start to believe that you're simply in an extension of the table that's coming from what is effectively the other side of the world, because you have a very large screen, somewhat similar to the sort of football game over there. You're sat in an environment where the screen more or less encloses you. Your room is curved, so is the screen. Your room just looks like it's sort of extending into the screen in front of you, and there are life-size people sat on the other side of a table. Neat little bits of camera technology where if anybody has seen normal video conferencing, the camera is normally where? It's normally on top of the telly. So when you're looking at the telly, it doesn't look like you're looking at the people at the far end. You're looking at their chest, effectively, at the far end if you're sat close to the screen, which can lead to some interesting observations about your sort of trustworthiness, let's say. You're not making eye contact during the conference. With the immersive stuff, with the display technology that we have, you can actually embed the cameras in the screen. So when you're looking at the screen, you're looking at the camera, and it looks like you're looking at the people at the far end. And there's some interesting research done about the impact that can have on sales over video, when you can actually enforce the simulation of eye contact between the advisor and the client. There's a significant uptick of the success of the sales process when you can do that. So that's all of the endpoint technology. That's the stuff that will sort of live inside your organization. The considerations around endpoint technology is that it should all work together. Okay, it's a bit silly to have your immersive stuff at the top end of the portfolio not talking to the other elements of the portfolio, because this is all about reaching out to people no matter where they are and what technology they have. So not building islands of technology is clearly a clever idea. So you want to look for people who have everything from immersive down to the sort of mobile stuff, all applying the same open standards. It should really live within your IM and presence infrastructure as well. It should live within your call control platform, because the combination of those things are what go together to make this stuff easy to use. Okay, so if I were to ask the gentleman here to maybe have a call on Tuesday of next week to discuss the presentation, how we move forward, but I would like my phone to maybe invite me to add video into our voice call once it's established that both you and I have a video capability. Okay, that's what I would like. Okay, so it's interesting to look at endpoint technology that can live within call telephony platforms that allow that sort of behavior, the escalation of voice calls to video calls. If I were to go to this young gentleman over here, who probably would like to interact over IM and presence engines on a desktop, because you're of that sort of generation, then I'd like my video stuff to live within that. So I'd like maybe you and I to have an IM to escalate through voice, through video, with the PC as the start point. But we choose that way because you and I find that easiest. So it's a case of finding out what people like inside an organization and overlaying a video capability on that. You will never, in an organization of any size, I think, find the one user interface that everybody agrees is just absolutely fabulous and really easy to use. It's about sort of allowing people to utilize their experience of other technologies and sort of overlaying new capabilities on top of that. Video collaboration is what we do. Mobility is key in the way people are considering video right now. The promise had been to have video in lots of different meeting rooms and to bring your work to those meeting rooms when you wanted to share it and collaborate with other people. And there are certain sectors now that are highly interested in video where they want the video to get to the place where people do their work. So we have aero engine manufacturers who are putting mobile video into hangars around the world so that the engineers in the UK can actually assess the mountings, the sort of diagnostic and maintenance procedures of engineers who are working for airlines all around the world. Okay, so mobility is part of that and absolutely has to be part of your video strategy, because there will be demands inside your organization for getting video to the place where people do work, rather than trying to encourage them to gather their work and bring it to where the video is available. Okay, and it's at the bottom of the slide there where we start talking about the elements of the vendor portfolio, which starts to form the cloud. So we have there on the left-hand side universal video collaboration. So that is a mechanism, again referred to by the gentleman from Avaya, which allows multiple vendor systems to come together at huge scale. Okay, so the sort of solutions that we have in our portfolio right now allow 25,000 different locations, if you like, to join one meeting. We've yet to come across an organization that utilizes 25,000 different locations into one meeting, but the biggest I've come across is a Chinese bank which had 2,030 something rooms into a single meeting, powered by this sort of infrastructure from the Polycom portfolio. So huge scale required, but also the translation capability that will allow people who are using vendor X's endpoint technology and some desktop applications from Microsoft, the Skype portfolio within Microsoft, etc., etc. So there has to be a translation capability on the network which will allow people to join the meeting regardless. And we started off that journey relatively simply about a decade ago, where we had an audio conferencing portfolio and a video conferencing portfolio, and we started just the translation, which allowed you to join a video conference from your audio-only mobile phone. And that's very powerful. I mean, I've seen people in hugely expensive telepresence suites, and they're talking to another group of people in another telepresence suite, but the person they actually want to speak to answer a specific question isn't in need a room. So they just grab them into the conference on the mobile phone, and that person has been in an airport, in the car, etc., etc. They've got the piece of information they need, and on they go with their meeting. Okay, so crucial that no matter what piece of technology you have in your hand at the time you're required in the meeting, you can get into that meeting whether it's video enabled or not. Okay, so scale and translation capability important for that element. Video resource management is the capability to reach out over the network and manage all of this wonderful video stuff that you will hopefully have in your organization. Polycom is a company of 3,000 odd people, and somehow we've managed to grow a population of about 8,000 video conferencing systems around the organization. But thankfully, we don't have lots of people managing all that. Lots of people have systems at home, in the office, in the other office that they go to occasionally, and we have a group of about 9 people worldwide who manage all of those conferences and all of those endpoints. They can push new builds of the operating systems at my systems at home. You know, there's never a chance that any of my IT guys will pop around to my house and fix my stuff. You know, they're going to do it all remotely. And the service providers will have that capability in the network as well via that video resource management. Virtualization is important in that it allows sort of the failover mechanisms that you will all demand of the technology as well. So that is an essential element of the portfolio as well. Universal access and security is about the securing the transition from your LAN, where most of this video stuff will work, and the sort of the LANs via the WANs that you'll go to meet other people to collaborate with. So there are standards that have emerged over the last couple of years to secure that transition through the firewalls. So you need to look at that as an element of the cloud as well. And finally, there will be applications in your workflows where the possibility of having to record the meetings is either necessary for regulatory compliance or just a good idea because there are people who can't make it to the meeting and would like to look at it later. So you should look at that as an element of the cloud as well. And not only the ability to record it, but then the ability to tag and manage all of that huge video library that you might be generating as you record all of your design reviews, and then you want to go back in and look at all the design reviews that worked through the gating process for new product development over the last year or so. So you can search on a project name, and up will come all these design review meetings, for example. Okay? So there remain some sort of impediments to, I guess, universal, ubiquitous video. And some of them are shown here. And I use this just to sort of to talk about some of the innovations that we have recently announced as well. There has been these, inconsistent user experiences and difficulties of use. And I think a lot of that has been dealt with through the work that we've done with Microsoft, the work that we've done with the telephony suppliers as well, to give people that sort of choice of start point. Within the Microsoft area now, it's very easy to actually schedule Polycom conference rooms in the same way as you schedule people into a meeting via Outlook. You can schedule those video rooms in there as well, and Microsoft will actually send an instruction to the video conference room to effectively join the meeting at the time the meeting starts. So that there is, I guess, no user interface required there at all. You simply get to the room where the meeting is occurring, you sit down, you find your chair, and you have your meeting. Okay, so I guess the ultimate in ease of use of this stuff is not to use it at all. It's simply to sit down and sort of and enjoy the experience. So a lot of work done there. We've continued sort of innovating in that space as well. Limited device and environment support. A lot of work done in mobility. We continue to expand our mobile application suite. We continue to expand the number of devices that we run on. So we have support now for the iOS and Android and other platforms. And I think I keep getting the number wrong because it keeps going up, but the last time I was told there was 15 different devices across multiple platforms that are supporting the mobile applications. Total cost of ownership, not as compelling as we would like. So innovations this year have been to supply software-only implementations of some of that hard stuff that we used to supply into the cloud is now a software-only implementation, which will drive down the cost of implementation for service providers and enterprise. And there's also some new standards coming, which I won't bore you with too much, but look out for something called Scalable Video Coding, or SVC, which actually limits the amount of work that has to go on in the cloud to translate between sort of different quality levels. If you have an immersive suite sending out information to a tablet, then there has to be a translation capability in the network to allow those two things to talk to each other. If this new standard is being emerged, the tablet can effectively decide how much quality it would like to take from the high quality transmission from the immersive suite. So this new standard will lessen the amount of stuff that has to go in the cloud and lessen the cost of ownership. I've talked about this already in terms of too many proprietary islands, and the technique we had been suggesting to date was one of translation. So it doesn't matter what you're using, sir, something in the network will translate between your device and mine. A recent innovation is something called the Cloud Access Suite from ourselves, and this effectively hands out time-limited tickets, if you like, to a collaboration session. So if you were using Skype, and I'm using my Polycom stuff internally, you're my client, I can actually hand out a capability to you which will appear as an IM in your Skype chat window. In that will be a web link that you click on, and that's the mechanism by which you will access the sort of the Polycom technology in the cloud or inside my enterprise. Okay, so no longer you use whatever you want to use and something will translate. I will give you access to the technology that I've sort of invested in here. Okay, so it's another way of breaking down that sort of collaborative silo that you might find yourself in. Simply handing out a capability to Skype users, to Facebook users, Google Talk users, and that you'll see that family sort of expand as well. And also there's a lot of work being done in generating APIs for the Polycom kit, so that you can start looking at the day when the video capability will be embedded into the application that you're using. So if you are writing a document on a Microsoft package and you see that the revision history has it that Ray McGroarty modified this plan yesterday, why not just sort of right-click on my name and be invited into sort of various forms of sort of collaboration. Part of the of work to be done, and I think it was Richard from Avaya referred to the mist between the clouds. And I think it's called that because in the formation of the clouds, they missed a few bits that are necessary. See what I did there? And one of the things was the sort of the ownership of the directory that exists between clouds. You know, if I subscribe to a BT service, and they're doing all of my bridging for me, and a colleague in a different company is subscribed to something from Orange Business Services, what is the mechanism whereby I can get the contact details of this other person who's on a different network? There's that level of difficulty when it does break down, when we do actually manage to find our contact details and make a call and something goes wrong with that call. What's the escalation path, through the BTs and through the Orange, so that both you and I get a good experience? And a consortium has emerged of about, I think it's about 32 companies right now that are looking at solving those issues between their networks. And Polycom is one of the founding partners of that, and we hope to sort of expand the membership of that, so that those issues that have been missed in the formation of the clouds are dealt with, and you do get that sort of that inter-cloud connectivity. And the promise then will be sort of any network, any vendor, any device. So I'll finish off with this slide and just remind people again that in looking at collaboration services, there is a sort of a technological challenge, and some challenges do remain. But there is an adoption and utilization challenge as well within the organization that you do have to consider seriously. You know, when you look at the statistics for how much video gets used in some organizations, it's really quite low. If you can get it right and get all that culture stuff in place, these are the sort of benefits that you can see. And travel reduction is always the big headline. Quite easy to measure, but look at the other areas. Downtime is one area which is a favorite of mine, because I read an article 3 or 4 months ago where there was a power outage for a few minutes into a television manufacturing plant in Korea. And they estimated the cost of the few minutes of downtime at $32,000 per second. So if you can look at video enabling a rapid response to an incident inside your organization, so that whoever is physically closest to the incident gets there, and then video enables that space so that expertise in the rest of the organization can be applied to that problem, so the problem exists for a little less time, then you can get huge benefits to the organization. Massive, massive savings, you know, when you contrast minutes saved and $32,000 a second. And you can, if you sweep through that slide there, you can see the sort of elements of benefit to the organisation that have been seen in the surveys that Wainhouse Research in this particular case did a few years ago. Okay, so I'm definitely out of time now. I've reached 0. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.